Who here has ever received a bad gift? A chunky knit scarf that matches exactly nothing you own. That scented candle that you know was regifted. The burnt pancakes and eggs full of shells for your Mother's Day breakfast in bed. You get the idea. Well, when you received that gift, how honest was your reaction? I think it's safe to assume that no matter how bad the gift was, you responded with gratitude. And hey, it's the thought that counts, right? But now, I want to flip that question. Have you ever given a bad gift? And how honest of a reaction do you think you received? This is a little more uncomfortable to think about because now your ego is involved. And hey, come on, it's the thought that counts, right? I think about volunteering in the same way, like giving and receiving a gift. In my 15 years as a social worker, I've worked with displaced youth, folks with disabilities, unhoused and marginalized communities, and I've volunteered in nursing homes, food banks, and community centers. I've worked with literally hundreds of people who gift their time with the best of intentions. So how could that be a bad thing? Well, in the same way you wouldn't expect to be told, this is a bad gift. You wouldn't expect to be told, you are a bad volunteer. It's not that bad experiences in volunteering don't happen, it's just that it's not usually discussed. It's because any conversation around volunteering centers the volunteer experience, not the experience of those they serve. There's no widely public discourse about the disruption caused by bad volunteers because honestly, who wants to tell someone their gift is bad? So time after time, an organization accepts the gift graciously, and then you, the volunteer, your ego intact, go on happily knitting more scarves. But the question remains, if you were a bad volunteer, how would you know? Let's shift the perspective and ask something that can help guide you towards a better answer. If you had to leave your ego behind, how would you show up to volunteer? It's easy to find the good. Volunteers provide vital work, measurable in terms of time and money. For example, AmeriCorps tracks data on the billions of volunteer hours that add up to billions of dollars in labor costs that nonprofits couldn't otherwise pay for. There are articles on how volunteering improves leadership skills and fosters community. There's research into how it improves mental and physical health. Good numbers, good feelings, good times. So where's the bad? Let's get uncomfortable. To answer this question, we need to do what I call an ego audit. It's a way of pinpointing the bad so volunteers know how not to show up. It's a method that can be used to shift intention-centered volunteering to mission-centered volunteering. And to clarify, when I say ego, I'm not referring to a volunteer's ego as an individual person. I'm talking about the egotism that shapes the way we typically view and therefore volunteer. So allow me to point out the shells and the eggs. Let's define the bad. Bad is intention-centered volunteering. Intention-centered volunteers come with a vision of the impact they want to make. They put the capital I in intentions by saying things like, I am here to help, I want to do some good, I want to make a difference. But this makes the mission of an organization and the needs of the people a secondary focus. Mission-centered volunteers prioritize the needs of a community and unite all involved in the work of meeting those needs. We audit to shift the focus onto what truly matters, the mission. And while it sounds like a complicated process, an audit is simply defined as a methodical examination and review. The ego audit is a method that consists of just 2 tasks that help you examine how you show up to volunteer. The first task of the ego audit: ask questions. An example, the intention-centered volunteer says, I want to give to the needy. So they hold a food drive and proudly drop off boxes of canned goods to their local food bank. The mission-centered volunteer asks, what is needed? And learns the food bank has plenty of canned goods, but they're in dire need of volunteers to help distribute them. And just like that, by asking one simple question, they've shifted from wasted time and energy trying to make the impact they wanted to knowing how to show up and making the impact that is needed. Egotistical, intention-centered volunteering says, I am here to help. Mission-centered volunteering asks, is this helpful? Audit to shift from, I am making an impact, to what impact was made. By asking questions, we learn to be the answer. The next task of the ego audit: get out of the way of the work. In my decade and a half working in all the various settings, I've come to identify the 4 types of volunteers that interfere with mission-centered work. The expert, the party crasher, the vet, and the bleeding heart. The expert thinks that because they're so accomplished and skilled in their field, this automatically translates to expert-level volunteering. Even after going through volunteer training, they have the expertise to know there's a better way to do things. These self-appointed leaders decide to do tasks alone. They ignore organizational procedures, throw off routines, and cause confusion along the way. They leave staff feeling disrespected. They sour the experience for other volunteers, making them less likely to return, and they leave guests feeling disregarded. The party crasher had an amazing time serving at your organization and could not wait to share the experience with their friends. So on the next shift, not 1, but 4 energized volunteers come unexpectedly bursting in, untrained, unfamiliar with how things operate, mostly aware of your mission and ready to get to work. Is your volunteer coordinator ready to drop what they're doing to train this boisterous group on the fly? Can your staff be productive while being constantly interrupted by a barrage of questions? Are your clients prepared for the vibe shift brought on by this new curious group? Ready or not, here they are, and there they went, leaving behind a mess of frustration and exhaustion, and having expended a day's worth of energy that resulted in an hour's worth of work. The vet is comfortable in their long-time role as a regular volunteer, and their experience has taught them that if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. Therefore, change is the enemy. In their resistance to change, they will begrudgingly require retrain after retrain to learn updated procedures, or they will outright dig their heels in and refuse to learn anything new. They'll discourage new staff by constantly mentioning how good things used to be, and they'll undermine training any new volunteers received by showing them the way they like to do it. And with no one wanting to face the deep discomfort at correcting someone with such a legacy, or risk losing someone so reliable, staff prepare for a long day of undoing, redoing, and correcting work. The bleeding heart arrives ready to give. A couple of hours a week turn into several days as they bond with guest and staff. And though they know the rules, their deep empathy moves them to make exception after exception, bending rules, blurring boundaries. And in their willingness to serve anyone, they try to serve everyone. They give until every resource, hour, and dollar is gone, yet they're still expected to give. Burnt out, they try to retroactively set boundaries and face accusations of being insincere or showing favoritism. And staff is left to navigate the aftermath of misunderstanding, hurt feelings, and resentment. Obviously, this is bad. But muddled in all that bad are invaluable traits essential to mission-centered work. The expert has expertise. The party crasher has energy. The vet has experience, and the bleeding heart has empathy. But instead of using these gifts in the work, the volunteer becomes the work, forcing people to sift through all that bad to try and dig those qualities out. And if you're an overachiever like me, and your volunteer style is a combo, party crashing, bleeding heart, you can be more than work. You can become a whole project. Audit this by approaching volunteering as you would your job. If you showed up to your job unprepared, ignored new policies, or invited your friends to come hang out and help you work a shift, it would be easy to guess the reaction you'd receive. The egotism of volunteering misleads people into thinking that because they're doing work for free, they can show up however and still be thanked for a job well done, even if the job doesn't get done. Get out of the way of the work, and you'll be amazed at how much you can do. How you show up matters. It matters more than what you do when you're there. Donating the food or washing the pans the food is prepared in, both are necessary in ensuring someone gets fed. Both serve a mission. Practicing the ego audit helps make certain you're doing good, mission-centered work. Whether you're a first-time volunteer or a 20-year vet, use it again and again. Ask questions that help you be the answer. Get out of the way of the work to get real work done. Recalibrate to stay mission-centered. You'll begin to realize that the work is the gift, and it's good. All there's left to do is just show up and serve.